So welcome to this episode of Cooking with Cindy. Today we are hunkered down inside our Airstream. We're in Bar Harbor, but there is a hurricane that is off the coast that is causing us to have high winds and rain tonight. So we're looking for a cozy dinner for the night.
And if you recall this video up here, we were driving up from Scarborough, Maine to Bar Harbor, and we had this maple bacon donut.
That served as an inspiration for our dish tonight. We're gonna make mac and cheese, but we're gonna kick it up a notch.
Right, that conversation was how could we assemble a dish with the greatest flavors ever assembled in a single dish, and that's gonna be tonight. So how are we gonna start it?
We're gonna start with mac and cheese. We are gonna start with maple, bacon, and lobster.
And we'll top it off with a bourbon hot sauce aioli kind of thingy creation that I'm going to be responsible for.
So hopefully it'll be brilliant. We don't know. We'll try it out.
It's got bourbon. It's got to be good.
It's got bacon. It's got to be good.
It's got lobster. It's got to be good.
It's got maple. It's got to be good.
So stay tuned for this Cooking with Cindy episode, and let's get into the kitchen. Well, we are in the kitchen.
Or the galley.
The galley. And let's get to cooking.
So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to measure out our pasta. I have a scale in the Airstream, and I have a scale for 3 reasons. 1, to measure out pasta. 2, to measure out hamburger meat when I make hamburgers, to make sure the proportions are right. And 3, to help feed my starter. Yes, I have a starter in the fridge. I'm embarrassed to say, but on a 3-week trip, we have to bring it along and feed it. So for that reasons, we have a scale. So let's get started measuring out our pasta. This is a dish for 2. And so for a dish for 2, I usually do 4 ounces of macaroni. All right, that's 4 ounces. And we're going to heavily salt the water. And we'll let that come to a boil. So while this is boiling and getting ready to go for the macaroni, I'm going to cut 1 tablespoon of butter. And of course, because we're from Vermont, it is kept, and it is unsalted butter. So next we're going to grate our cheese. And this is not just any cheese. This is Yancey's Fancy's maple bacon cheese. And we're going to post a picture of that, and we can get it in Vermont, but it is technically a New York cheese.
And I think it's widely available, right? Your parents in Tennessee said they found Yancey's Fancy.
Yancey's Fancy, but I'm not sure they've yet found the maple bacon, so...
We keep all that for ourselves up north here.
Exactly. So we're just going to cut a chunk of that. Sounds like my water's coming to a boil, so we're going to turn that down.
Is that enough cheese?
We're going for about a cup of cheese. So we're just going to grate this up. And note that I have a flat grater, because that is a great way to have a grater and not take up a lot of space.
Ooh, good tip. Good pro tip.
So, and note it has a rubber base on it so it doesn't slip. And it has a rubber top on it so it doesn't slip from your hand as well. So we're just going to... So once your water comes to a boil, you're going to add your macaroni, like such. And you're going to give it a stir. And we're going to turn it down a little bit. And we're going to let this go for 15 minutes because we're going to end up baking the macaroni and cheese later. So a little al dente at this stage is a good thing. So while our macaroni is boiling, we're going to chop up our key ingredient. We had a lobster boil a couple days ago, and we saved some really sweet tail pieces. Look at that. So that's just going to get chopped up and put into the lobster mac and cheese. So also, while your macaroni is boiling, you're going to preheat your oven. So we're going to set this for about 375 and let this preheat while 5 minutes off of the finished macaroni.
And so sometimes people ask, why did you choose the Airstream you chose? Why did we choose this 2002 22-foot International AS.
It's the galley.
We love it.
We sacrifice a actual shower, I think. A separate shower for this. But you know what? I spend most of my time in here cooking and less time in the shower, and so that was a good trade-off. So it's time to make our sauce, and we have all our ingredients here, and I'm going to be using bread flour for this because that's just what I happen to have, and because we like to make pizza and stuff. But maximize your storage space by using square containers because they fit easier together than the round ones.
Right, rounding is just wasted space. As an aside, check out how this Japanese company has figured out a way to make square watermelons to increase the efficiency of shipping. But I digress.
So let's go ahead and make our sauce. So we're going to add the butter. It's about a tablespoon of butter. We're going to, our macaroni is sitting aside for the moment. We're kind of trying to make this as easy as possible for cleanup. So we're going to use this
Which is always important in an RV to make sure you maximize your cleanup potential.
So we're going to use the same pan that we used to boil the pasta in, and we're going to make the sauce. We're going to melt the butter, and once it's melted, we add the flour. Here's our butter coming to a boil, so we're going to add about a tablespoon of flour. Turn that down a little bit. We're just going to make that into a roux, which is a fancy way of saying you're going to mix the flour and the butter. So you're going to mix it so that your flour is all dissolved. So that looks pretty good. And you're going to add your milk. The milk is kind of an estimated quantity.
I bet the bourbon's going to be an estimated quantity too.
So we're just going to add the milk to this. Make sure you keep stirring it. So we're just going to let that thicken up, and as it thickens up, we're going to add more milk, and this will keep it smooth.
So you're doing that right now on like a super low heat, huh?
Yeah, and we're just waiting for it to thicken up. Once it coats the back of your spoon, I think that's pretty thick enough. So we're just waiting for it to come to a slight simmer, and if it coats the back of your spoon, it's not quite there yet. So you can see, once it coats the back of your spoon, you are ready to add your cheese, but you have to make sure you turn the heat off first. So as you can see, that's the thickness that you want when it coats the back of the spoon like that. So this is ready. I'm going to turn the heat off, and we're going to add the rest of our ingredients. So we're going to add the cheese, which is going to make it super yummy, and we're going to add the lobster. So you can see the cheese is melting immediately, but you do not want to have this on heat when you do this.
Right, the heat is off.
The heat is off, so look how it thickens up. So at this stage, I'm going to taste the sauce just to see if it needs any salt. I'm going to add some pepper. Oh my gosh, that's good.
It's cheese and lobster. Why wouldn't it be good?
Oh my gosh, that's insane. All right, we're going to add just a pinch of salt. Not much though. Because cheese is naturally salty, and so you never want to add salt before you add your cheese. So you want to add your salt after you add your cheese. Alrighty, that looks insane.
Some one of these days we're going to get a new oven.
And I'm going to add just a little bit
shaft.
more milk just to loosen this up just a hair.
It's getting a little warm in here.
Yep. You can hear the wind.
We've got the fantastic fans pretty much closed simply because there's a lot of wind outside and I don't want one of those to depart.
So, next step is to add your pasta back into your mixture. This is where the yumminess starts.
I think the yumminess has already started.
Yeah,
this is where the yumminess continues. It's really making that cheese macaroni noise too.
I didn't know there was a defined
There
cheese.
is. My mom used to make Kraft cheese macaroni and it made that same noise.
Oh, sweet cheesy.
Except hers came from a box and foil package of cheese.
Kind of like
it was good.
Kind of like a squashy noise. All right. So, important step before you put it into the oven. Always Pam your dish. Cooking spray, very important. It is cheese. It will stick. All right, we're gonna add the lobster cheesy goodness to the pan gracefully.
If you don't, that'll make for good vid.
Here, cameraman, take a sample
Ooh, samplage.
of the cheese.
Oh my God, is that good?
All right, a little shape. I'm gonna add some breadcrumbs. So I'm gonna finish with some dill on top because I think the dill would go very well with the lobster. But I don't want to put it in there until I finish it, because if I put it under the broiler for any reason whatsoever, at the finish, that dill is going to shrivel up and burn. All right, and it goes. For 20 minutes or until it bubbles.
Okay, so while our maple mac and cheese bakes, Cindy has put me in charge of making the bourbon hot sauce aioli that we're going to drizzle on top.
Aioli?
Well, it's not an aioli, but it sounds good. It sounds cooking-wise. Instead of just saying sauce, aioli sounds better. All right. So anyway, we're going to start with two of my favorite ingredients. First of all, Maker's Mark bourbon. If you've not checked out this video where we have toured the Maker's Mark facility, I am a Maker's Mark ambassador for life, so big fan of their bourbon.
We get free tours for that.
And we get free tours. And we also like Frank's hot sauce. So I just want to begin this by saying that this statement that I'm going to make has not been affirmed by the Food and Drug Administration, but it's something that I believe, and that's that in an RV, bourbon tends to spoil quickly. So before using it in cooking, you should always test it, as well as don't let your bourbon bottle sit in your RV for more than just a few weeks. So we're going to test it to make sure it's good before putting it into our dish, because easily could have spoiled.
How does that taste?
Okay, this is fresh bourbon. So this is
As opposed to skunky bourbon?
right. So this is good bourbon. So what we're going to do,
You wouldn't want to use skunky bourbon.
no. So we're going to take a good shot of this. The key to this sauce, or aioli, is to make sure it doesn't get too thick. Because if it gets too thick and clumpy, then it's going to be ruined.
I'm not sure it's going to
So I'm going to take a little bit of the bourbon.
And aiolis usually have mayonnaise, so
Yeah, well, this is called this. You're infringing upon my artistic nature. So we've got our bourbon,
all right.
and we're going to put some of our sauce in. And we're going to see
If that improves it.
well, we're going to make sure that this isn't too thick. Because if it gets too thick,
I doubt that's going to happen.
what do you think?
That didn't do anything.
I think we maybe need some more sauce, maybe.
Well, if you put too much sauce in it, it's not going to be drinkable.
All right, we're going to add a little bit more sauce here. Now that's looking better. A little bit more sauce. This is Frank's hot sauce thick.
Sweet cheese and crackers.
And this can be used on anything. This can be used on eggs, as long as you're not driving before you actually put this on your eggs.
We're not cooking off the alcohol, so... So how does that taste, your recipe of your own invention? Is that a good one or is it a bad one?
I think that's a good
Okay.
I think this would be nice drizzled
Alright.
on our lobster maple mac and cheese.
Bacon. Don't forget the bacon.
Good point.
So here we are. I finished it after 15 minutes under the broiler to get the brown top on it, and I added the dill to give it some color, and it looks perfect. So we can hear the rain pitter-pattering on the roof.
A little bit of wind.
And a little bit of wind, so, but...
We've plated up our mac and cheese.
Yes.
How is it?
It is really good, and the flavor that comes out the most is the maple.
Yep, I would agree.
I do like your little drizzle.
It's not bad.
It gives it a nice little kick to it.
Could have used maybe more bourbon.
That's...
But it's still good. This is really, really good. I mean, it's amalgam of flavors. As I would say, with that Yancey fancy cheese, Cindy is exactly right. The flavor that comes out is maple first, the hot sauce second, and then the lobster and the...
The lobster and the bacon sort of compete with each other, depending on what piece you have.
Right.
So if you like this video...
Give us a big thumbs up. Click to subscribe if you haven't already done so.
And comment below if you have an interesting take on macaroni and cheese.
And don't forget to hit that notification bell to be notified whenever we release random videos like we just did with our Hitchbox.
Exactly.
Because we come out with RV and Airstream related videos every Tuesday.
Thanks for watching.